The Albuquerque Journal reported this week that New Mexico's high school graduation rate was the lowest in the nation in a recent report. Now the numbers are from 2015 and some progress may have been made in 2016, but these numbers point to a persistent problem in our state. Before the line reacts to the story, let's hear from someone who was working on the issue. Our producer Sarah Gustavus sat down this week with Angelo Gonzalez, the executive director of Mission Graduate.
Angelo, thanks for stopping by this week.
Happy to be here.
This new report that folks are talking about, the numbers are from 2015. Why is that?
The data just lag a little bit at the national level, and the fact that states are all reporting up. And so it's just the nature of data collection and reporting at the national level.
What do we know, though, about graduation rates last year in 2016?
So we know that in the state of New Mexico, about 71% of high school students graduated within 4 years as of 2016. So that's a bit of an increase from the 2015 report that was reported nationally.
Even with those numbers, though, we still would be towards the bottom nationally. This is an issue that Mission Graduate, lots of folks have been getting together to work on in recent years. What's different about the work that you're doing?
Well, Mission Graduate is a cradle-to-career education partnership, and I think one of the things that makes us different is that we really brought a lot of the community's top leadership together several years ago to take action on a big goal for educational improvement. And our goal is actually tied to college attainment. We're trying to graduate 60,000 more people with college degrees and certificates by the year 2020, so just a few years from now. But we know that in order to hit that goal, we actually have to have strategies underway in college to get more students graduated from college, to get more people into that college pipeline, and then ultimately increasing the number of students who are graduating from high school. I think that what's special about Mission Graduate is it's cross-sector. So we have top leadership involved. We have two presidents from local institutions of higher education, Kathy Winograd at CNM and Chowki Abdallah at UNM. We've got a couple of superintendents, Superintendent Reedy and Superintendent Cleveland, as well as a number of business leaders and community leaders who have come together and said, we really want to work differently together as a community to support kids both in school and out of school to help them be successful in college, career, and life.
Because kids, like everyone else, they're part of the community. The issues they're dealing with are community issues and social issues. What do we know about some of the reasons why kids may be falling behind and not graduating?
Well, it's complex. There's so many individual circumstances that kids face, but one of the kind of frameworks that we continue to go back to in our Mission Graduate work is something known as early warning indicators. And when we look at kind of the big factors that predict the likelihood that a student will fall off track to graduation, we think of ABC. It's attendance, behavior, and course completion. So the first one is school attendance. We know that if kids aren't showing up to school, and it starts as early as kindergarten and even pre-K, that those days missed, and it's just as few as 2 days a month, can really add up and set kids back. Behavior is really all about discipline. And for far too many of our kids, they are entering into what is sometimes called the school to prison pipeline, but it really has to do with getting involved in juvenile justice and sometimes not being able to get back on track again when students are exposed to that system. The third is course completion. And in high school, it has a very practical effect. It's really about credits, right? In high school, you have to accumulate a certain number of credits to graduate. And so as kids fail classes, many times they often see that they're not going to be able to make it to graduation on time. And so there are fewer and fewer incentives as they get closer to graduation to actually stay on track and graduate. But course completion also touches on readiness. And so course completion is about being able to make sure that kids are ready every single year as they're moving through that educational pipeline, so that by the time they get to high school, they're set up for success and they're able to pass their courses and go on. And then lastly, I'll say course completion is about relevance, because we believe strongly, and we've heard this from kids we've talked to, we've heard this from community partners, that kids, in order to be engaged in their learning, that what we're teaching them, both in school as well as the out-of-school experiences we're creating for them, need to be relevant and engaging to their direct lives, their everyday lives.
What does that look like? Is it internships or interacting with business leaders?
Yeah, so that's one piece of it. So we actually did a number of focus groups last year here in the Albuquerque area, and we produced something that's known as the Albuquerque Graduate Profile. That graduate profile is available on our website for anyone who'd like to look at it, missiongraduatenm.org. It really lays out a lot of the core competencies or the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that our kids need to have to be successful after high school. But it also lays out a set of foundational experiences that community members told us over and over and over again that kids need to have to be successful after high school. And it comes down to things like having caring adults in your life, right? And it's not just a single mentor. It's a collection of people in your lives, starting with parents and family members, but it could be a business partner who's hosting an internship. It could be a coach. It could be someone who's leading an after-school program. Those caring adults really matter. We also heard that things like internships and having kind of an opportunity to experience real-world activities outside of the classroom can really make a difference. And in addition, it's things that we can do inside the classroom as well, such as having authentic curriculum that really is tied to students' lived experiences in their communities.
With where we're at right now, that sounds great moving forward. What about students who haven't graduated, who maybe could go back and get a GED and then go into community college or some other sort of training or higher education?
Right, so there are a lot of great options for students who are looking to go back, and one of our initiatives in Mission Graduate that will be formally launching soon is something called Graduate ABQ. But it's a way for young folks who want to actually get back into post-secondary education or college. When we talk about college, by the way, we're talking about anything after high school. So it could be starting with a certificate program at C&M, an associate degree, or a bachelor's degree, something that's more of a four-year experience. So Graduate ABQ is just now getting started. Anyone who wants to learn more, we actually have someone that would be willing to sit down with you and talk about options for going back. People can learn more by going to graduateabq.org.
All right. How do we measure success? Because this is a long time issue in New Mexico, so the solutions are going to take a while to get there and see change. How do you measure short versus long-term success in this area?
Right, so this is one of the things that we've committed to do as a partnership in Mission Graduate, and I think it's one of the things that perhaps sets us apart. We, every single year, produce an annual data report. For anyone who's interested, again, it's on our website. And so one of the core things that we track is progress toward our big goal, which is around college attainment. And what the data are showing us is, our data lag a little bit as well, but as of 2015, we are about a fifth of the way toward that 60,000 certificate and degree goal, about 12,716 new graduates between 2010 and 2015. That's remarkable progress, and I think it's worth pointing out that our local institutions of higher education, particularly those at C&M and UNM, are really doing a lot of great work within their institutions to increase graduation rates. And that's even in the face of declining enrollment. We're still seeing increases in college graduation at those institutions. And so as a community, from a post-secondary education standpoint, we're actually increasing progress, and our data are showing that from year to year. We also are tracking other metrics, and so high school graduation is one that we track. We look at the data by school district. We also try to aggregate that data so that we can see, kind of as a community, how well we're doing. And then we look at indicators all the way back, including third grade literacy, eighth grade math proficiency, because we want to understand that how well students are being prepared as they're moving through that continuum to graduation day.
Do you find it challenging to tell that story, though, to the public? Because hearing that we're the worst in the nation just gets a lot more attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging at times to be able to convey the amount of energy that our community is putting into really trying to improve graduation rates, and the fact that we're still not seeing the kind of progress we would like to see as a community. But I just want to say that I believe strongly, from the work that we've done over the past few years with our partner organizations, there are a lot of really great people in this community that are coming together in new and different and innovative ways, and are really trying to find ways to turn the situation around. And I'm very hopeful about the future. I believe strongly that we will see high school graduation rates, as well as just education more generally, start to improve in the years to come. And I think post-secondary education, the success we're seeing there, is a real leading indicator of the improvements that I hope to see in high school as well, in that K-12 education continuum.
We appreciate you coming by this week, and we'll check in with you again about this issue. I think it's an important one for New Mexico.
Absolutely, thank you.